Well, I'm sorry to interrupt the member opposite's dinner plans, Chair. I think this is an important matter. We have, as Mr. Cooper articulated, a situation that's extraordinary, and we can go back several months to lay out the situation that Canadians are facing. And I would hearken members back to one of the debates during the election, where the Prime Minister, the former chair of Brookfield Asset Management, which is a major shareholder in Westinghouse Nuclear, said from the debate stage that Westinghouse, by name, was the preferred option of a government that he would lead. Why on earth? Why on earth would that have been the Prime Minister's choice? Now, this, of course, is the same Prime Minister who, before there was any type of ethics screen in place, before there were disclosures made to the public or finalized reports to the Commissioner, was sitting at the Cabinet table in March. But it's also the same Prime Minister who said that he himself wrote the Liberals' election platform. Well, that's before any of these screens were being administered or in place, and before the disclosures were made public. So people are rightly concerned that this Prime Minister has not been acting in their best interests. And this list of companies or individuals that were disclosed, we don't know if it's the full list, and it wasn't proactively disclosed. If I'm not mistaken, it was only released after media questions and after Mr. Cooper moved the motion at committee. So this is a matter where we're dragging, kicking and screaming a Prime Minister. And look, this isn't my first day. I've been here for a few years, and just the existence of the rules has not been demonstrated to be enough for Liberal ministers and Liberal Prime Ministers to follow them. Justin Trudeau was a serial ethical lawbreaker, time and time again. And ministers in his cabinet, some of those ministers who broke ethics laws are still in the Liberal cabinet. So you'll have to excuse us if we just can't say, my goodness, this is so unbelievable. The Conservatives are doing politics here, and they're just not taking the Right Honourable Prime Minister at his word.
Why would we?
We haven't been given any reason to. Unfortunately, we have to force disclosure from the Prime Minister. So tell us, give us the information. Disclose the information so that we can get on with it. But I just think it's unreasonable at best to just simply say, well, this is not something that we would ask for here, because the only reason the information that we have exists in the public forum is because we moved a motion at this committee. But we can backslap and congratulate ourselves on what a great job everybody's doing instead of just addressing the matter at hand. But that's not providing the accountability and transparency to Canadians in the context of a study that's about strengthening Canadians' confidence in elected officials and in our public institutions. I think that everyone should see. You know, we hear the refrain from the government very often that they're a new government. Well, the only reason that there's been a branding change is because of the conduct of the old government. It's the same. The same people are still there, but we saw what happened before, and as some of our witnesses testified today, the absence of meaningful penalties meant that people treat it just like a speeding ticket. That's no problem. I'm in a hurry. We're going to move fast and break stuff. Well, That's not the integrity that Canadians expect from elected officials. That's exactly what undermines confidence in our public institutions. And time again, and we saw it. We saw it in the last Parliament. We saw it over the last decade, where in this very committee room, we would have members opposite say, you know, this is just politics and there's nothing to see here. And what did we find out? We found out that we were right. And when we said that there were contracting, what we believed would be contracting irregularities, and that there was insider dealing on things like the $60 million Arrive scam, that is exactly what we found. That's exactly what we found. But we were told, do not investigate this. You're calling into question the good work of honest public servants. Nope. We were calling into question grifting done by people who are adding no value to products that Canadian taxpayers were paying for but could ill afford and provided no real safety or service to them. But we were told, don't ask the question. This is just politics that you're doing. No, the House passed motions to recuperate, to recover that money, because those were ill-gotten gains. We have a real opportunity here to actually refurbish the confidence that Canadians have in their public institutions and public office holders. That is actually something that we're able to do. We're not going to be scared off by just the mere suggestion that we should be delighted that the Prime Minister ran for office. And we're not going to simply accept that because he says it, so it is. Trust, it has to be earned. And if this was, in fact, a new government, we would not see ministers who broke the very law that we are reviewing at this committee in the federal cabinet today. So there hasn't been that kind of repair done to the reputation of the government. And so we're going to demand accountability, especially in the context of the law that we're reviewing. We saw from the time that Mr. Carney started as an advisor to Mr. Trudeau, decisions being taken by the Liberal government that align directly with the investments and financial interests of Mr. Carney and the company that he represented. I think about decisions on heat pumps and Brookfield's investment in Train. I think about mortgage rule changes. Well, Brookfield is the owner of the second largest private mortgage insurer, if I'm not mistaken. Time and time again, and Mr. Carney, we saw what happened when he was in the UK with exactly the same kind of heat pump scheme being peddled by the government there in response to a request that benefited him. The heat pump hustle is a perfect example of why we just can't take him at his word. It's about the integrity of the system that we have here. And we saw, and I don't need to relitigate the issues of Mr. Trudeau. But Mr. Carney seems to be accumulating his own at such a speed that if we don't slow down and take a look at some of these, like, for example, this list not being furnished to this committee. He didn't send it to us, but he knew the motion was passed. He's got a real big staff. Was not furnished to this committee as evidence for our consideration or as a response to Mr. Cooper, being proactive, being open. This is an opportunity that they passed up, that Mr. Carney passed up. Why? If this isn't about politics, and if he's just focused on doing a great job.
No one believes that.
Unfortunately, it's impossible to believe because of the decisions that he's taken to this point. And so we're left to ask for the receipts. Show us who was there. We need to know. And some of the questions that we've examined today about how we can improve on the act that we have so that we can know who knows what. When is the screen being triggered? What decisions has he recused himself from? We don't know. And so, again, we're left to take him at his word. The question about tax havens today isn't something that was just conjured out of thin air. It's because we know that Mr. Carney put together funds in his role as chair at Brookfield Asset Management that were in tax havens. So I can't believe that this is someone who's altruistic and solely focused on what's in the best interest of Canada when he thought, what would be best for us is what's best for Bermuda. Let's headquarter this business down there above a bike shop and make sure we're not paying our fair share of taxes in Canada. That doesn't sound like someone who's got that level of focus. And so we have to press and we have to ask the tough questions. And it should be pretty up and down. I mean, a vote on something like this. You would think that it could pass, but again, I've been here for a minute and I've seen filibusters start to move from the back burner to the front burner, and I can't sit here while we just cycle through speaker after speaker who just want to say how everything's great and we should just let things slide. Take him at his word. Well, I don't take him at his word. I would like to see the receipts, as we said. If this was a good faith exercise from the Prime Minister's office, they would have furnished it to the committee. They did not. We're asking for the rest of the information. It's not too much to ask. It's actually the least that they can provide to Canadians. And so if the conversation has to continue, we can continue it. But it's about improving. It's about improving the safeguards, improving the shields, so that Canadians can have confidence in elected officials. They can have confidence in Parliament.